Allora, innanzitutto grazie a tutti voi di essere qua, sia i nostri studenti, i nostri docenti, sia gli studenti del CSC e sia gli altri studenti che arrivano da altre scuole. Grazie a tutti gli ospiti che invece vengono ogni volta e seguono i nostri avvenimenti, i nostri momenti, come dire, di incontro, ma anche e soprattutto aperti a questa città. Oggi abbiamo un ospite di eccezione. Dopo che dico il nome, lui tanto non sente in inglese, non c'è la traduzione in questo momento. Dopo che dico il nome vi chiedo un enorme applauso. Jim Rygiel è qua con noi. Voglio ringraziare Edi che con noi ha organizzato questo avvenimento. Stasera alle 7 ci sarà l'inaugurazione del loro nuovo spazio, uno spazio proprio fatto e pensato e costruito, perché è nuovo, in virtù proprio degli effetti speciali. È uno spazio aperto e quindi vi invito tutti poi ad andare a vedere le possibilità e le iniziative che ci sono. Ma voglio dare un saluto istituzionale e dovuto al presidente del municipio 9, il professor Larghieri, che ci dà la possibilità di usare questo spazio durante tutto l'anno per i nostri studenti e chiaramente per queste iniziative che vedono lo spazio aperto anche al quartiere. Direi che basta coi preamboli, iniziamo con questa lezione. Grazie Jim.
Buongiorno, sono Irene Rubini, come sempre ho il piacere, in questo caso anche l'onore, o quasi sempre insomma l'onore di presentare persone importanti che vengono a parlare con i nostri studenti e con il pubblico. Da questo momento in poi parlerò solo in inglese, non per fare bella mostra di me, ma per semplificare. Ringrazio molto l'interpretariato che ci segue, anche la traduzione, quindi switcho sull'altra lingua. Thank you very much, Jim, for being with us. It's a real pleasure, as Laura was saying. The lesson is I'm just explaining how the lesson is going to work, as you decided. The lesson is going to work this way. I'm talking to the students now and to the audience that is in this place. We're going to show, Jim is going to show a series of things, and then about 4 times we're going to have a question time, which is a moment in which everybody can ask questions. So the students that want to ask questions can ask them in Italian or in English, the way they prefer. I know that there are some people that speak English, so if they want to ask questions in English they can do. You're very welcome. Jim is going to trace his career from the beginning to the present time, obviously, which is one of the most interesting things. But if there are other subjects that you want to address, he's very happy to answer to you at any time in the question times. Is that okay? So if you want to think about things that you wanted to ask specifically about some films or some parts of his career or some parts of his work, you're very welcome. Okay? So we're going to start now. Thank you everybody for being here, and try to keep the silence because it's a bit complicated to do all the different things that we're doing now, the translation and everything. Thanks very much.
Ciao Milano.
Okay, do you want to organize the beginning of the thing? And I'm going to ask you the fatal question, so we're going to start.
Okay,
okay?
Sure. Ask me the question.
I'll ask you the question.
Yeah.
We agreed that I'm going to ask a fatal question to Jim, which is a very difficult one. How did it all start?
Well, as all good careers, it started by accident. I didn't necessarily think I was going to get into visual effects when I was in school. I was actually in school for painting and drawing. So I went to art school, I got my master's degree, I got out of art school and realized I was never going to make money as a painter. So it was a funny time, because it was a time when the computers were coming into the home market, like the IBM PC, the big thing with the monitor, was just coming into the US market, or the world market basically. And the one thing that sort of got me into it is I kept hearing on the news that this computer was going to take over our lives and we were going to be slaves to it. And that's sort of made me nervous about it. So I ended up buying a computer just to see what it was. And I quickly realized that the computer was just a pile of sand that was useless. But it got me interested in computers, which was fun. And I started programming, very simple. I'm not a programmer, I'm more of an artist, but it got me enough interested in it that one day I was at my school, and there was a little card that said, if you like computers and art, come see us. And I said, yeah, I like computers and art. So I went in there, and it was one of the first computer graphic companies. I didn't even know what computer graphics were. And they tried to explain it to me. Well, we put a bunch of numbers in, and a picture pops out on the other side on film. And it's like, well, how does that happen, you know? And so I had to go through it was basically, I was getting paid to go to school. And so I think that's one thing, you know, I know you guys are all taking digital media, you're taking Photoshop and Premiere. It's one thing to know the tool, but it's another thing to know how to deviate from the tool. And so think of the equipment you're using just as a tool, but always think of maybe other ways to do it. Like, for instance, I was at Francesco and Rosario's place, Effetti Digitali, and you know, which is a digital computer graphics company. And I walked past one of the rooms, and there they have a squid tentacle, a real-life squid tentacle, and they're animating it. So they cut this tentacle off, and they're doing a shoot basically because they didn't want to, or it was too expensive to make a CG Kraken sort of armature. So, you know, it's just thinking outside the box. It's like, yeah, that's a great way to do it. So keep that in mind. What I'm going to show you is I'm going to go through a little bit of sort of my start when I was about your age, and you'll see it shows when I start showing you the images. One of the little things that nobody knows really about me is I actually first started out with a career as an actor. And so I have a clip from the movie I was in to begin with, and I'll start with that. I changed my career. That was my last film, and my first one. So I basically, I sort of told you I got into digital effects by more curiosity than want to do it, because it didn't exist when I was getting into it. We were sort of inventing it. And I'm going to show you some of the pieces here. This first one was, at the time, and you'll see it's so cheesy looking, but at the time, Ray Bradbury, the author, came and spoke to the opening of a commercial that we had. And so the reason why Ray Bradbury was called in is it was the first all-digital commercial. So all the graphics were digital, the voice was synthesized, and the music was synthesized. And it was the first time anything was done like that. So that was, you're going to see what it looks like, and it's I can't believe I even show this anymore, but it's so PlayStation. But it was an interesting time, and we were talking to Francesco, and you got to remember at the time that we did these commercials, these first couple commercials, there was no graphics monitors to look at things. So all there was numbers. So we'd have a screen and it just had numbers on it. It was just terminals, basically. And so the way you would create an object is you take a piece of graph paper and you draw on the graph paper, and then you have to type in the coordinates one by one. So frame 1, x1, y1, frame 2, x, y. There was nothing, you couldn't see anything. And then what you would do is once you had this all typed in, it took you a day to sort of get it all in. You'd send it off to the computer. The computer would calculate it for another couple days, and then it would shoot it out to a film recorder, and so you'd see your work maybe 3 days later. You would never be able to see what you were working on. And of course you'd see, this thing flying nicely, and all of a sudden it would start spinning, and it was all wrong. So you'd have to fix your program over again. So it was very archaic, but you'll see. I'll show you.
Today is tomorrow. Because the wondrous pens and pencils of Pentel are light years ahead of the others. To know what tomorrow has in store, look to Pentel today.
And then video games were also big, so we did a lot of these video game commercials because they were for Atari.
Introducing Burger Time, the home video game where you're a chef being chased by food that constantly disagrees with you. Like hot dogs that have a taste for revenge. Burger Time! Eggs that don't turn over easy, and pickles that are very, very sour. Burger Time! Now for Intellivision, coming this fall for Atari 2600, Apple II, Aquarius, and IBM home computers. Burger Time! From Mattel Electronics, don't be surprised if you're on the menu.
So can you believe people paid us money to do that? And a lot of money back then too. I mean now, So I'm going to show you some images now of, any questions, yeah?
Domande? Avete delle domande?
Keep going. All right. So now, you guys have a one workstation sort of system, and you can do all the movements and graphics on one station. Back when I was starting out, every sort of program that you used was a separate piece of equipment. So, for instance, this is not a Star Trek movie. This is me sitting at what we call the IMI. And I was looking at the television, and we don't even have these cathode ray tubes anymore. But this was a big graphic system. This machine cost probably $125,000. And it was literally just to do movements of things. So it'd be a big vector graph on there that we'd control with this little joystick here. This little joystick right here. And that's how we did all the moves. So now you do that in a software program, but before we need specialty hardware to do that. So, I like that jacket I have on. So, I worked at a place called Digital Productions, and this here is a machine called the Cray XMP. And it was the fastest computer in the world at the time. And we had one, and our government had one. So we were making crazy pictures on this thing, and they were calculating where to drop bombs. I don't know what they're calculating. But it was a super fast machine. Let's see another picture here. Yeah, so that was it. It's a Cray tower. I was telling Francesco again, we had to, you don't see it, but under the floorboards here, there's pipes with liquid Freon that run up and down into the machine just to keep it cool. And they said if that Freon pump stopped, this room would get to 100 degrees in 30 seconds. So they had to teach us, they had the firemen come and teach us how to get out of the room if that happened, so we had to crawl on our bellies and come out this door here if the thing ever melted down, because what would happen is out of these vents in the ceilings, halon would dump down. And what halon does is when it dumps down, it immediately sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So we would have passed out in there if we ever had to do it. Here's some other interesting equipment here. I just saw these. So we had 10 of these things here, which look like washing machines, are disk drives. And so we had 10 of those, and each one of those disk drives held 256K. And they were, what was inside there were big platters about this big with like 7 levels. And they'd be these big things that you sort of shove it, you open the door and shove these things in. And that's how we would store all our information. So now, you know, like this is 16 gigabyte or whatever, you know. So it's incredible to see just over time, you know, time being a long time. So once everything was calculated, oh, that was another thing. Now when you calculate frames digitally, you store them sequentially on your disk drive. Since we didn't have disk drives, this Cray was so fast that we would render it immediately to the film recorder, so that we could never store our images on disk. So I told you everything was hand built. So this is one of the guys, John Whitney Sr., famous CG guy from the past. And he was creating a down shooter that would shoot at a little monitor down below here. And that's how you would take pictures. But all this stuff was hand built by guys that worked at our place. This was our film recorder. So again, there was a camera up here. It looked down into this box, and this box had a super high-res CRT tube. And so the way you would expose a picture, now you don't expose pictures anymore because there's no film. You go straight to digital. But if you looked at this screen, and this is one frame at a time, you'd see the little vector line just sort of scanning down. And then on the top here, there'd be a color wheel. That was the red scan. And then the color wheel would turn, and it would do the green scan. And then the color wheel would turn, and it would do the blue scan. So those are your 3 RGB channels. And you would expose one frame of film. And it took about 2 minutes to do one frame of film, just to expose it. And then the film would crank to the next frame, and then it'd start all over again. So it would take hours to shoot it out to film. And now it's all digital, and you could almost send it live to video. Piece that's going to show now was some of the work I did at Digital Productions on that Cray that you saw. We didn't do, in the beginning, we didn't do a whole lot of commercial work. A lot of the stuff you're going to see is experiments we did because we were trying to figure out what the software did ourselves. We were writing our own stuff as we went along. So again, there was no way we could see this. We had a little graphic monitor that we could hold 90 frames maybe, but it was all very archaic as to how we designed these things and sent them to the Cray, and the Cray filmed them out, and you'd see them the next day. But it was sort of fun because we were figuring out, you know, like reflections and highlights on things, and really experimenting with the different looks we can get out of computer graphics at the time. And this, again, it's hard to realize, but this was groundbreaking at the time. So that's a good thing. Okay. So that was a time of a lot of graphics, and you see television spots. We weren't really working on film yet. The film industry didn't believe that we were a viable tool for them. So we had to prove to them, and it took probably 10 years to sort of get them to try some of the first films. Although while at Digital Productions, which you'll see a bit of, I did a movie called The Last Starfighter. And that was one of the first all computer, well, primarily the models were computer generated. So again, it was sort of groundbreaking at the time. What's next here is after Digital Productions. Any questions yet, by the way, before I go on the next one? Yeah? No? Okay. So what you're going to see next year is a commercial. You know what the Super Bowl is, right? Super Bowl. So this is a commercial. They used to have this thing called the Bud Bowl, and it was a Super Bowl with beer bottles by Budweiser. And the way they did it before, I worked at this is at a place called Boss Film, and the way they would do it before, I saw some people today doing stop motion, was all stop motion animation with these bottles. They have real beer bottles, and they make little helmets for them. And they'd make a giant arena, and one guy would go in there and move every bottle in the arena. There were hundreds of them. And then he'd come back and take a picture, and then go move. And there were some great commercials. I couldn't find the stop motion ones, which I'm still looking for. But when I moved into Boss, they asked if we could do it digital. And so we did a little test for them. And what you're going to see here, the Bud Bowl sort of runs every quarter, so it's a lot of different pieces. But this one commercial was, we got paid $6 million for it. I didn't, but the company did. But, you know, again, it was sort of, at the time, this was 1990 maybe, and just, you know, the graphics and the way we put the sweat on the bottles, the beer commercials were very particular as where you put sweat beads and, you know, where the light comes from. So this is from that. And this also was our first thing. We got digital compositing going. And
hey, turn it up, it's Bud Bowl! Well, the Bud team looks like they mean business here in the second quarter. They're bringing in, yes it is, the Basher. He fields the kick. Look at him go. He's twice the size, twice the speed.
Twice the refreshment.
Bud Light using their 6-pack defense, but they need a 12-pack to stop this 24 ounces of aluminum dominance. Touchdown, Budweiser. Uh-oh, it's showtime with the Basher. Check it out. Might as well cancel the halftime show. Apparently for entertainment? Oh, that's uncalled for.
And another 15 yards, unsportsmanlike conduct, and you're out of here.
He should really learn to control his temper.
And there's the half with Budweiser up 14-7. Write it down. You could win $1 million. So stick around for the second half. Roll the color, excitement, and pageantry of bottles playing football.
so, yeah, okay. So we did a lot of those. What can I say about that? Question? You gotta have a question about a beer bottle.
What was the reaction of the general public to this kind of a commercial, since it was kind of the first of its kind, so as you know, if you know clearly.
Yeah, I mean, anytime now people watch computer graphic commercials and it's like they go get something to eat, But back then it was, again, sort of groundbreaking to see these beer bottles moving. Even though they know it from the stop motion days, it had a whole different look to it. It was a lot cleaner look. Even the Pentel pen commercial, that very simplistic one, there was nothing with computer graphics back then. So to see this weird thing sort of flying, it was sort of surreal in a way, So I think they liked it because we're still doing it, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so. Okay.
May I ask a question about this particular commercial?
Yeah.
Because you were saying it was a surprise and it was a pleasure for the people in those days to see the beer bottle behaving like that.
Yeah.
So do you think that this surprise effect is now gone forever, or that there are always new things that might surprised the same way? Or was it just groundbreaking in those days?
Yeah, I think the audience sort of begins to understand the process every day, and so they sort of just get lulled into the fact that, oh, it's another, I know what that is, it's a computer graphic commercial. Like somebody told me, there's I think it was a great train robbery, and it was one of the first motion pictures ever to be seen in a theater. You know, the old black and white, and it was basically the camera was mounted on the tracks, and there was a train coming straight at the camera, right? And so when this train came at the camera, I was told that people got out of the audience and ran away.
The train of the Lumiere brothers.
The what?
The Lumiere brothers.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Train dei fratelli Lumiere.
I don't know my history.
No, no problem. Just
But people were so freaked out about it, they thought it was a real train and ran out of the building. So it's, you know, but then they realized, oh, that's just a picture, you know. So I think that's what's happening, is just people are sort of understanding it more and more until the next new thing comes along.